Today we read from 2 Thessalonians chapter 3, verses 6 to 10 and 16 to 18. Thessalonica in Greece, modern-day Thessaloniki, was where Paul founded one of the earliest Christian churches, and the letters to the Thessalonians are some of the earliest New Testament documents written in the 50s. 2 Thessalonians has a special place in my heart, since I wrote my doctoral thesis about it. It's not well known, and in parts it's quite obscure, hence the interest in studying it. Today's section illustrates the vital importance of contextualization. Never take a passage out of context, or you are sure to misinterpret it. When Paul laid down the rule of, if a person will not work, let them not eat, that sounds like a prohibition on unemployment benefit, but of course it's not. It's certainly a criticism of any who abuse and exploit the benefit system, but not of those who genuinely need support. The problem was that the Christians there had got hold of the idea that Jesus was to return to earth soon in glory and judge everyone, and that this was such a vivid and immediate expectation that it was raising anxiety and preventing people from getting on with their daily lives in a normal way. The thinking was that if the Lord may return even later today, well, there's really no point in doing anything, least of all going to work. Perhaps they thought it better to spend all the time in prayer. Paul wrote this letter to disabuse them of this idea. The Lord was indeed coming, but not that soon, and in any case, he would expect everyone to be getting on with their duty when he arrived. Paul suspected, and no doubt he was right, that the idlers were taking advantage of the situation rather than genuinely being unable to work out of their anxiety. So he rules that the Christian community should not support such people who were abusing the generosity of others. He cites his own example when he was staying with them and preaching the gospel, and wherever he went, Paul earned his living through his own trade, which was tent making. He did not live off the charity of others. Perhaps this is a good example of being as wise as serpents and gentle as doves. It's easy to take advantage of Christian compassion or of any altruistic charity. So sometimes we need to be firm and apply appropriate rules or criteria for those receiving support. It's a tricky discernment matter. Some people give money to everyone they see begging on the street, aware that not all are genuine, but not wanting to omit any who are. Others never give them money, since some will be fraudulent. Others still will give food to avoid cash being used for illicit or harmful purposes. The widely used food bank system uses vouchers to identify bona fide recipients and to try and ensure that resources are distributed as widely as possible. So we see these issues are still alive today. And what of the Lord's return? Here we are, over 2,000 years later, and the world still rolls on. What are we to make of the expectation of the New Testament? Well, many books have been written about this, but taking a psychological point of view and remembering the prominent teaching in the Gospels to be ready at all times to meet him, we have to acknowledge that not knowing when this will happen is more likely to produce lives of faithful service than knowing a date in the future. If Paul's contemporaries had known that the church will continue this long, they might have acted very differently, and Paul's own sense of urgency in communicating the gospel everywhere could well have been lost. Similarly, I don't know how you feel about this, but I don't really want to know when I'm going to die and what of. I do know that it could happen anytime, any day, as with everyone. And that is enough motivation to make this day as good as I can.